Good evening and welcome to Private Properties Podcast. I'm your host, Estee. Tonight we talk all things fire, and I hope you're fired up because we're talking about savings, investments, and things that we need to do and plans that we need to put in place to retire early. We have Hector Maepa from the South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners. How are you, Hector?
I'm very well, thank you, Estee. How are you doing?
I can't complain. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Hector. I'd like to shoot straight into it and ask you, how has your journey been with fire, and how did you learn about this thing we call fire?
Well, it's very interesting actually, because I did not plan to learn about fire. So the idea was for me to just actually find ways in which I can enlighten myself, find ways in which I can grow myself, or find more information in terms of how I can make it into this world. But unfortunately, unfortunately, I came across various topics, that of which how people made it into who they are today and where they are today. So fire is actually one of those. And also what I've realized is that most of those, when they do it, they literally are not planning to apply the fire movement. They're just doing it because of it's part of something deep inside of them that they desire, which is financial freedom.
Right. So on this topic of financial freedom and financial independence, most of us want this. It's a want, it's a need, actually. You know, we want financial independence. We want to retire early. So what exactly does financial independence mean for you, Hector?
Well, financial for me is not. It's not a difficult thing. It's not a difficult question. I can just say, just like any other youth, it's more about flexibility, which is what we see in terms of the new idea of fire now. It's about having financial flexibility and not being able to make choices based on the restrictions of your finances. So you want to make your choices based on what you really feel and what you really love and what you really want to pursue. And you want to make decisions based on this is the impact that I want to leave and this is the legacy that I want to leave behind. So once you have that, the financial independence, you literally like gain control over your life. So that is what financial independence means, gaining control over your life.
And also trying to gain control over our finances, because it's so difficult for a lot of us to even just start saving. You know, it's such a difficult task. We have so many challenges and implications that come in the way. And thank you so much for your definition of financial independence. And I'd also love to ask the viewers to maybe just comment below, what is your definition of financial independence? What do you believe one needs to do to gain financial independence? And I know, Hector, you're going to talk a little bit more about what we need to do to gain this independence. I also would like to ask, why do you think that we want financial independence so badly?
Well, it's actually a very interesting question, Estee, because I believe that human beings, we always want to explore. We love to explore, and we love to participate in activities that mean something, that are meaningful. So we have reached the time where it's no longer just about working, but it's more about what we leave behind and how we actually make an impact in the lives of those around us. So it's a psychological thing. In terms of why we want financial freedom, it's because of we want to be free. We don't want to be restricted or to be controlled. So as much as they say people love to be controlled, but they love to be controlled by a force that they actually allow to control them, not just be controlled because they have to. So they want to do things because they want to instead of they have to.
Exactly. So not being controlled, and like you said, maybe not working for too much or too long. And this again now brings me to my follow-up question, because one of the ways that we can gain financial freedom, gain financial independence, is through this fire movement. So please tell us, what fire, what does it mean? What is fire?
So fire, in simple terms, is defined as the financial independence. Retire early. So it's a lifestyle movement where individuals pursue financial independence. Though it's not a new thing, it's now becoming more popular, especially in the youth bracket. You know, the recent trend that we see has been around for like since 2010. So that's like 10 years right now since it has started. And the idea behind this is that it has always been to retire early, but now this is the new trend, which is about flexibility and achieving your financial independence through achieving flexibility through financial independence.
Right, so gaining flexibility through financial independence. I think we've lost Hector. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Please give us 2 seconds just to get Hector back. So as you've heard, it's really gaining independence and learning how to work with your money, self-discipline, and also saving and investing. And we're going to hear more about this when we talk about the FIRE movement. Hi, Hector. Hector's back. Hector, on the topic, so we've heard what you've had to say about gaining financial independence. And I'd like to know, a lot of us would like to know, because you said it's been in South Africa for about 10 years now. Where did it start? And how is the movement, how are us as the youth or young adults using this FIRE movement? How are we using it within the South African context?
Okay, well, the FIRE movement has been here for quite some time, right? So it's been popularly written about in like 1992, and then it's just becoming more popular right now in like 2010. And that's because people are now becoming more and more financially savvy, and they're trying to get out of the bracket of like just working. So when people become depressed, they now start to try to find new ways of making money or of getting out of the situations that they're in. So which is what is one of the most important influences of this. But it's been around for quite some time, just that most people are now starting to explore this. I remember when I was growing up, we'd have our parents, at that time they would sell Avon, and they would also sell Tupperware. So it also shows that this has always been there, because in today's world, the youth are selling Herbalife, they're selling Forever. So it's more like the network marketing thing is now growing. And we also see a growing in traders as well in online businesses like content creation. So it's coming, because now looking at the opportunities that are online, people can see that, and they're trying to find ways in which they can actually be a part of that and make money as well.
Exactly, and it's like what you said earlier about it's a psychological thing. And I think frugality is really, so what we're doing now as young people is we're tired of instant gratification. We're trying to have a frugal life where we're trying to save for the future. And this, and like you've said, it's been really popular in South Africa, and you've seen how people have taken certain things like our parents did in the past. We're now using things such as Herbalife and making our own income streams, right? Yeah. And this again leads me to my next question is, so you've seen that it's growing in South Africa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So with the growth in South Africa, I'd like to find out, is it really an easy thing to do? Because I've read about saving 10 to 15% of your income. And in the South African context, 10 to 15% could be quite a lump sum to a lot of viewers or even to myself. So is it an easy process to just start the FIRE movement?
All right, well, it all goes back to why you are doing it. I mean, you must always have a very clear goal in terms of that, because the FIRE movement can actually take a toll on your social life, which is something that we as human beings don't like. We are very social creatures. So when I say at a rate of about 40%, then that takes a toll on your social life. So it's something that is doable, but then it depends on why you're doing it. And also sometimes it can also depend on your timeline. You must have like a realistic timeline and a realistic goal of how much you want to save, when you want to see yourself having saved it, and what you want to use it for. So that's basically the definition of the FIRE movement and how we apply it here.
Right, so in essence, know exactly why you're saving, and then have a set timeline as how you can get to your goal at the end of the day. So Hector, again, now what are the steps that I need to take to become a part of the FIRE movement? What steps do I take?
Well, at the end of the day, what I love to say is that it's always about self-awareness and understanding the dynamics of your finances. So you just have to know how you use money. You have to know at what time, like if maybe you can find a time that you know, okay, I use most of my money and on the 15th, and this is where I use it on. So you just have to find those things out and try to make sure that you know what, you learn about the important stuff, which one are more important and which one that you realize, you know what, I can cut off here and then focus on these ones. So whatever you cut off, you can then take that money and then put it into the bank account and save it.
Right. So keeping track of what you do, and also I think understand, and it's such a crucial time for us as the youth, you know, being influenced by society, and what is it that you really need, not necessarily what we want, because finding out what we need can really help us put a lump sum away, you know, like you say, or 10 to 15% of your salary, of your annual income, whatever it may be. And it's just self-discipline and learning how to save this amount towards to reach your goal, you know, like you say. So again, what are the obstacles
I just wanted to add on that it's also a little bit more interesting to look at how we are doing it here as the youth, because when you look at the idea, most of the youth, they do not cut off on expenses, but instead they try to find ways in which they can drastically improve their finances. So they are driven by experiences. So they make sure that they increase their salary in terms of their side hustles, and then also use that money to like live a certain lifestyle which maybe they wish to.
And that's such an important point, not cutting, you know, your lifestyle, not taking anything out of what you're doing, but kind of finding side hustles, finding part-time jobs, and just earning an extra amount. And then with that one job that you get, you could actually just put all of that into your savings, because you've got your other job, which is paying you and feeding your other needs, right?
Yeah, that's literally how people are doing it.
Exactly. And it's so amazing that that is happening here in South Africa. And I think another question for myself and the viewers is, what are the obstacles that could sabotage my journey of saving, of investing, of actually obtaining this FIRE movement, you know, financial independence and retiring early? What are the obstacles I could face?
Well, at the end of the day, you know, we have what we call financial temptations. You know, so you decide that, you know what, I'm going to save this certain amount of money, and then you save half of it when you realize that, you know what, there's something that I actually need. And also we have unforeseen circumstances which come through now and then. So these are the ones, although they motivate us, but they can actually take so much more of your money. So it's always about financial temptations and like not knowing what to spend your money on. You know?
Exactly. And, you know, how do you account for unforeseen circumstances where you kind of just need to dig into your savings and use that money? And then some of us, you know, when this happens, some of us tend to think that we failed at this whole saving thing because we went out and took out a lump sum. And these are just obstacles that get in the way. And I love the word that you used, financial temptations, because they arise on a day-to-day basis. Trust me, Hector, they do.
Yeah, and there's also that part where I feel like we try to force things, you know, so when you're forcing something, like you save more than what you have to or what you can handle, at some point you'll then be tempted, and when the temptations come through, you're actually a little bit susceptible to falling into those temptations, because you'll be like, okay, you know what, I think I've saved more than I wanted to this month. So when that comes in, then you are pretty much going to spend a lot more than you expected, because now you're like, I saved more, so I can spend a little, but you're actually spending more with whatever it is that you'll be spending on.
Exactly. And this reminded me of an article that I read, which was really, so a lot of people tell you with the FIRE movement, save 10 to 15%. But what you've just said really kind of proved that we kind of need to just be realistic about our goals, be realistic about our savings. If you cannot save 10%, save 5%. If you cannot save 5%, save a little less. And this brings me to my next question, which is really about the different types and the various FIRE movements that one gets. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that, please, Hector? I think there are 4 types of FIRE movements that you get.
Yes, and each and every single one of them speaks to different stages where people are, and also what it really motivates them. So one of those is the Fat Fire movement. And this is where people, like, they earn a lot of money, they don't have a lot of responsibilities. So these guys, they are actually able to save more and then also be able to maintain a certain lifestyle. And then there is also the Lean Fire movement. And this is where people are saving aggressively. So this, you see it usually in the youth bracket, where young people are like, you know what, I'm saving to start my own business. So they spend so little and then they save so much more. And then there's the barista. So the barista one is where a person who they literally leave their job and then they just get a part-time job and then work part-time in a sense where that they will just try to cover the expenses. So while they work the part-time job because they maybe are in a position where they want to follow their dreams or work for an organization and follow a non-profit goal or some sort. And then there's also the cost fire movement. And this is where a person, they say they have savings in their bank account, but then the issue with that is that they have to work part-time because they don't want to draw too much of their savings. So they work part-time and to supplement to their expenses. So they have savings, right. They work part-time so that they can cover their expenses.
Right. So you say a lot of the youth in South Africa are kind of falling into the lean fire bracket, right? That's what you've seen.
That's what's making it popular. You know, the lean fire, the lean bracket. That's the one that's making it popular.
Right. So that's so amazing to find out that a lot of the youth or a lot of young adults are falling into the lean. So trying to start their own business on the side, but still what they're actually achieving is they're still saving, which is so important. You know, that is the key kind of aspect of this entire movement, just to save and put your money in places where you can see it grow. It's almost like achieving a passive income at the end of the day. That's kind of what the goal is, you know, still rewarding yourself, still. You don't necessarily need to work a 9 to 5. You don't need to be in the fat fire kind of bracket where you're earning a big salary, but it's just living proof that no matter what you earn, there is a percentage you can put away. So a quick question to my viewers before we run to an ad break, Hector. I'd like to find out from our viewers, can you comment and let us know, are you actually on your fire? Are you fired up? Are you on your journey towards saving, investing? Have you started your journey? And please comment no if you have not. So please let us know in the comments below, and we'll be back in a few minutes with Hector Maepa. Thank you so much. Welcome back to Private Property Podcast. As you've heard, we're speaking to Hector Maepa this evening from the South African Institute of Black Property Practitioners. So we've been talking everything fire, and I hope that during the break you commented below, are you on your journey to financial independence and retiring early? If you are, please still comment yes. If you're not, comment no. It's not a problem. We'll read the comments later and we'll see, because tonight's conversation is going to guide us to actually go on our fire journey. Welcome back, Hector. My next question, I'm bringing it back home. I'm bringing it to South African soil. We've already spoken about how a lot of the youth have used this movement and started, you know, you said they're in the lean fire bracket. They're starting their own businesses, yet they're still earning an income and still trying to save. So what are some of the, not even obstacles that we face, but what are some of the ways that young adults have used this movement in the circumstances that we face, the socio-economic conditions of South Africa?
Well, I'm pretty sure that most of us usually get that invite where a person will be like, hey, my name is what? Do you know about trading? Do you know about Herbalife? So as much as some people may see that as irritating, but that's literally something that we can look at and see that people are doing something out there to actually uplift themselves. So as I mentioned earlier, that network marketing has actually become something more popular, that even companies are branching into that in some way. So we're having like travel network marketers like this. There are people who bring to you saying, you know what, you can travel at a certain rate only if it's the same thing as like the Herbalife, but now it includes the traveling. So this network marketing and online businesses, you see that people are now finding new ways in which they can leverage on this, especially with the internet, where you see that there are now more opportunities there, especially in terms of meeting people and also creating those as well. So yeah.
Right. So that means the market for or the amount of young adults that are actually on their journey to achieving the FIRE goal, it's actually really working because they found different ways and different means to make it work for them, which is, yeah.
Yeah, and also they try to find another job, which means that they will be keeping their full-time job, learning new skills, and then they will be using these skills later on. So when the salary that they get on the side hustle, they usually just take it and they use that one to cover their expenses. So that's literally how it is. It's like finding new ways in which you can make more money.
Right. So my burning question is, what if I actually do not have enough to save? You know, some people would still like to retire early, but maybe they're in their 30s. Maybe we're talking above 30s or 40, and they still want to retire in the next 10 years, say. What if I don't have enough money to save?
You don't have enough money to save. That's a very interesting question, because of as much as people say there's always something to save, some people, they actually experience a lot of difficult situations. So now it all goes back to finding out about available opportunities that are out there. And this can happen you can start this by talking to people and asking them, how can I do that? How can I scale up? It may sound a little bit crazy in the beginning, but the longer you ask this question from yourself and from everybody around you, you'll end up getting the answer, which will be somehow directly, what can I say, it's relating to you. You know, like when you look at it, you're like, okay, I can do this. This is how I can scale up. So whatever you'll be making from the other side, then you can be able to save it up.
Exactly. I've seen people in their 50s, 60s already starting their own, you know, like the young people, you call it side hustles. They might still be working their 9 to 5, but they also have something they do on the weekend or something that they do after work. And this is part of their goal to achieving the whole thing to retire early. And I'd like to again ask, how, since we're on this property platform, how can I use, or how is property going to help me actually with my investments, with my saving? How can I then gain financial freedom using property?
Well, right now, what we've realized is that there has been a lot of like barriers, high barriers of entry in terms of the entrance market into the property industry. But then we see a rise in like stock fellas where people are coming together and then they're working together in terms of like achieving that. So they know that, okay, property is a long-term game. So now it's all about building a legacy or building something that we're leaving behind. So they come together, they purchase a building, and then they help each other buy buildings for themselves. So that's how people are doing it now.
Okay, just before we close off, Hector, tell us more about your journey. Sorry, you were saying?
And I'm also saying that I just wanted to say that property for now, well, since forever, it has always been a very good investment vehicle, especially looking at the manner in which it grows. Looking at the least that it grows with the inflation rate. So that's what it is. So you are able to literally keep your money and then you see it grow with years. And at the same time, you'll be able to get rental income from it. So that's what makes it ideal. So it's more like your capital appreciation is there. and at the same time you're getting rental income. So those two things make property an ideal investment vehicle.
Exactly. And the whole saving and investing thing in property. And this is what I meant earlier when I said passive income. You know, it's not necessarily sitting at home doing nothing, retiring at the age of 30. It's really just having your rental income, your passive income, while you're still completing or busy with other jobs on the side. And like you said, property is the best vehicle that we should use at this time. And I think, again, with the psychology thing you mentioned earlier, a lot of young people, and this was in one of our other podcasts that we mentioned, is not focus on buying a house that is, you know, out of your reach. Be realistic with your financial goals. And you also mentioned that. Be realistic about how much you're saving, how much you're willing to invest in certain companies, in certain properties. And that way you'll achieve your goal sooner than later. So Hector, just before we close off, I'd like to know about your journey with FIRE. How far are you in your journey? Do you think that, are you almost done with your FIRE journey? You're investing in your savings. Can we see you retire in the next 5 years?
That is possible. Hey? That's possible, but I will not be retiring in the next 5 years. Not even in the next 15 years. Hey? So I'll probably be taking on other projects at the same time that are more fulfilling on my side. So for now, as I've said, I've been learning about this movement. So it has always been on my side to try to understand on how I can actually make it out. Luckily, I also don't have any issues like spending issues. So I'm financially savvy and I know how to control my finances. Well, at least that's what I think. But so far so good. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'll be able to save enough as time goes on and then use it wisely. So it's all about learning more about how my finances are working now, like my financial dynamics. How do I spend money? The more I learn that cycle of how I myself spend money, then I'll be able to predict on where should I be, which points should I look at, which points should I improve. So far I can say that I haven't had any issues. Just that on my side I've been applying more of the learning part. So you learn as much as possible. So they call it the barista part, where you leave your job and then you find a part-time. So that's where I have been, because I wanted to learn more about how to grow as an individual. So now I'll then be going to the lean part as well.
With the rest of the youth in South Africa, you move up to the lean part. And it's so nice to know that you have absolutely no financial temptations. As you say, you think you don't have any right now, which is a very good journey to be on. Exactly.
Yeah, there, but I can say most of the time I spend most of my time with like the people around me, my family. So and when I go out, I don't go out that much. So that is something that I can say works well for me.
Yes, and I think being financially independent is really just the essence of knowing how to save and knowing how to work with your money. We read all these articles about the FIRE movement, watch all these videos, and the key thing is really just save for you, plan for your investment future. Stop trying to use someone else's goal. So not every goal will exactly be your goal, correct?
Yeah, I mean, once you know what you want and where you're going with it, then you'll be able to better understand where in the four brackets or elements you'll be able to fall into, because then it will be driven by what's important to you or where you are going. So if maybe you want to invest in a business, then the lean bracket can work very well for you. But if you want to learn a new skill, then you can go and be like the barista bracket, where you learn and then you get a part-time job.
So Hector, last question, which bracket do we want to be in? Which is the bracket that I should be in if I want to retire next year? Which bracket should I be in?
Well, if you want to retire next year and you have the correct skills in doing that, the lean is actually the best way to go about it. You just have to save aggressively, because that's what FIRE really is. It's about saving aggressively, using your money wisely, and then making sure that you invest it. So which means you'll have to cut off on a lot of things, but at the same time, it's going to be worth it. I mean, you want to do it in 1 year, right? So it means you have to take drastic measures.
I do. I need to get rid of all my financial temptations. So there you've heard it, guys. be in the lean bracket. And as Hector's mentioned, a lot of young adults are currently in the lean bracket, which is a good thing. So there's a really good future for South Africans. And also save, invest, and remember that it is your journey. Save how you can. Let's not, also do our own research, and let's not see what other people are doing, but kind of do it for us. So thank you so much, Hector. And tonight we've spoken about FIRE, and that is financial independence, retire early. See you all tomorrow night at 7 p.m. sharp. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much, Estee.
Besides the beautiful beaches, sunny skies and how central everything is, what I really love about Umhlanga is the people. You can't help but become immersed in the culture, and you'll find people connecting in the most authentic spaces. It's just got this vibe to it. It's hard to think that only a few years ago, these business parks and homes were mostly sugarcane. The rate that this area has been developed at is truly mind-blowing. Especially with the fast pace of life these days, we really pride ourselves in being that bright spot in a person's day. You'll see everything from advocates and CEOs to creatives and students who pop into our spot for that short moment to escape. There's just so much life and energy in this area, and after a hectic week there's nothing better than stopping in at Mount Edgecombe Country Club for a relaxed round of golf. The beauty and serenity that the estate offers really inspires me. There's honestly no place I'd rather live. That's my Umhlanga.